Everyone says that agents need memory. What actually is memory?
Memory is a type of context. All the conversation turns between an agent and an LM, all of the tasks that an agent maybe does in isolation, are you able to structure memory primitives from that and essentially serve the agent the right context that it needs before it hits an LLM to answer a query? From our perspective, a production-grade memory system and what's truly memory can account for something that's constantly evolving so that you have this sort of knowledge base that's up to date.
Do you find that there are misconceptions about memory amongst engineers?
I think so, because I think a lot of people think that the LLM remembers something when it really doesn't. Every time you talk to it, it's for the first time. So it's important having something like Memory Labs probably to do that for you.
We get a lot like, isn't this just the same as a RAG pipeline? I think what we try and explain to people is when you're structuring memory primitives and you actually want to keep track of, hey, this memory supersedes that memory, this memory is on a different decay curve, none of that is going to occur with a RAG pipeline.
When people talk about memory, it's often framed as a vector database problem. Where, in your opinions, does semantic retrieval work well, and where does it fall short?
One of the things that we take very seriously, it's one thing to structure memory primitives from natural language long conversation. We also structure memory primitives from agent trace. So if you say, hey, agent, go and complete a task, it's essentially keeping a log of all the tool calls, the successes, the failures. There's a lot of things that's tracking under the hood, and we call that trace. The hard part, though, with trace is not natural language. It looks actually more like code. So the old school version of memory where it's like, hey, can't I just create semantic triples and vectorize it and recall it? It doesn't actually work for trace. So one of the things that we take really seriously is we can ingest that trace, we can structure it, and we can normalize it, and our system can decide what actually should be durable and what is exhaust. And then even if it is durable, how long should it be durable for?
When it comes to autonomously updating memory, should that live in the wheelhouse of the agent, or should there be human-in-the-loop validation?
Part of our utility is automating a lot of those things. So there are other memory systems out there that are going to give agents a billion knobs and hope that they turn them the right way. And what we've noticed is, as much as we're all on the path to AGI and there's all these amazing things happening, a lot of the times the agents make a mistake, even if it's directly in the skill file, they still don't turn the knobs appropriately. So we try and be as prescriptive as possible, and we think that's part of sort of our utility and why people should want to work with Memory Labs. If you're relying on your memory as critical foundational context that you need for customer-facing agentic workflows, you don't want an agent to go rogue and start revising the SOPs that are going to make your agent successful.
What would your advice be to those looking to minimize their agentic and their inference costs? Can it be framed as a memory problem, or is it wider than that?
At every conversation turn with a human customer and your customer support agent, the system is re-injecting full context into the prompt, which essentially means that at every single turn, you're just wasting more and more and more tokens. It gets more expensive as you go on. There's an established benchmark developed by the Snap AI Research Lab called Locomo, the long conversation benchmark, and in that testing, we have shown a 95.03% reduction in inference spend when you actually take a customer support agent and they're answering questions from memory context versus full context. So there's no question about it. The LLM vendors want you to waste tokens. That's how they make money. And what we can really do is come in there and inject so much context or memory into the prompt that we could actually have a very cheap model or open source model perform as well as, in theory, a frontier model because it has that context to work with versus starting from scratch.
How important do you think it is for memories to be model agnostic?
Even if Untitled builds the best version of memory possible, that is fundamentally tied to the four-walled garden of their ecosystem. The current and future is always going to be multi-model. We give you that production-grade memory system that is decoupled from whatever LLM you're using, so then it allows you to move and pick and choose and make changes without sort of dealing with that vendor lock-in.
What would your advice be to help architect against this vendor lock-in?
I'm really biased here, but I think the architectural choice that you should make is you should pick a memory vendor that's not tied to one of the LLMs. And there's really cool companies out there like OpenRouter that are trying to abstract away you being dependent on one model, and they can intelligently route your query to the right model based off of a host of things. And we're even, for example, speaking to them because they want memory to influence where it should be routed to.
From your experience with working with enterprises, what's a big mistake that they tend to make in this area?
Very naturally, I think engineers engineers feel like they can build anything, especially today. So we'll run into large enterprises that say, hey, I've already spent a lot of cycles building my own memory solution. And then the first thing we say to them is, what are your Locomo benchmarks? And they're like, what's Locomo? And then the second thing we say to them is, do you ingest trace? And they're like, no. That's an issue. I think there's a natural tendency to want to build everything. The memory problem is really, really hard. We've got people working on this around the clock. So our advice is focus on your core product and let us handle the memory part of it.